Unfortunately, the Ahsoka series is dividing the Star Wars fan base yet again. We've seen this with The Last Jedi, but it is happening once again, and I'm here to talk about it. But first and foremost, let me address a couple things from previous videos, people commenting. There are some things that I really need to say up front. First of all, I don't know if this is Star Wars fans in general that have found my video, or these are Star Wars theory fans, but I have been inundated with some of the most room temperature IQ, non critical thinking people I've ever seen. And their commentary to my video is not really a refutation of my content, but rather a number of pejoratives and other insults that have nothing to do with my content, and it tells me these people did not actually watch my video. Number one is I've heard "you're dumb," which, I mean, coming from these people, I'm not really that offended. It is just a baseline insult, literally saying "you're dumb." The other thing is this video is pointless, which, I mean, this is Star Wars. It's fantasy. All of it's pointless. None of it really has any real world application outside of, just conversations. Things that we're passionate about and talking about. Does it really matter? No. But we like these things. We enjoy these things. We make them a part of our lives. So saying that a commentary video on Star Wars is pointless is technically correct, but the whole point is not necessarily to have a point in relation to being useful or having utility. I saw a topic that I wanted to talk about. I covered it, and that's about the extent of it. The other thing is, you're just a YouTuber and you're clout chasing. First of all, I'm not a YouTuber. This isn't a career. I have a real job. I do this as a hobby. I do this because I want to. I don't have sponsorships. I don't have endorsements. I get in front of my microphone and I record these videos because I want to, because there's a topic that I find interesting. I am not a YouTuber, and I want to make that perfectly clear. A YouTuber is somebody that does it professionally. Star Wars Theory is a YouTuber. I am not. As for clout chasing, let me put this in perspective. I like Star Wars. I'm talking about Star Wars. Ahsoka is the latest hot thing in Star Wars. It is a massive topic. There is a debate going on. There is a conversation. The biggest name in Star Wars right now is Star Wars Theory. So your entire accusation of being a clout chaser is patently retarded, because there would be something wrong if I had to have a conversation about this and I didn't mention the largest YouTuber that is saying things about this that is causing ripples in the topic that I'm covering. So understand, you don't know what clout chasing is. You have demonstrated that you are very stupid and you don't have critical thinking skills. I explained every position that I have in that video. All you have to do is watch it. All you brainlets have to do was watch the video. And if you disagreed, fine. You can articulate that in the comment section below. But you're genuinely too stupid and have no critical thinking skills and no attention span that you couldn't be bothered to watch the video that you're commenting on. And so you come out with an asinine comment, and it's irritating, but ultimately, like you, it is irrelevant. When I talk about Star Wars Theory, I'm not making personal attacks against him as a person. I'm not going to his channel and making wild accusations that the only reason that he's having these brain dead opinions about Ahsoka is because it's only because you're clout chasing. You just want to have a contrarian opinion to get views. Do you see how retarded that is? You see how ridiculous that is? That is a complete and total waste of time. Just like you. Just like your entire life is a waste of time, and now you're wasting my time. So, understand, I have no problem with you commenting on my videos and saying something stupid, but at the bare minimum, I require that you watch the entire video and then you point out something that I said that you say, well, that's dumb because this, and this. Okay? Now getting back into it. George Lucas did not say, and I played this in my other video, George Lucas did not say that everyone can be a Jedi. Everyone can use the Force. This is the most ludicrous line, all in defense of sloppy, lazy, shitty writing. And this is the divide. This really are the battle lines. These are the battle lines. You have people like myself that will not tolerate garbage, that understand the worth of Star Wars. I know how good Star Wars can be. I'm not going to settle. That's what you people defending this are doing. You are settling. You say, I like Ahsoka. I like all these other characters. Therefore, I'm willing to tolerate an inexorable amount of failures and lack of content and quality control. Basically just slop. I'm willing to eat slop because I like the color of it. Or, I like the aroma of it. But it's still slop. I think Star Wars is more akin to a fine dining experience. I've played the games. The games are extraordinarily good. Now, I mentioned Wizard's First Rule, and somebody who actually did watch the video, kudos to you, made a comment that I was using another series' magic system to apply to Star Wars. Yes, a lot of these people use the same sort of philosophical and spiritual values. So the idea that everyone has a spark of the divine, or everyone has a spark of magic, or everyone has a spark of the Force is not unique or original. And that's what George Lucas said. Everyone has a tiny blip of the Force. They have a tiny ember, a little light. But that does not mean that you can use the Force. It doesn't mean you can use magic. It doesn't mean you can train. How big that ember of the Force is within you is determined on something that you were born with. It's why no matter how hard certain Jedi trained, they could never be the most powerful. Obi-Wan beat Anakin not because he was more powerful, but he learned the lightsaber form that was best for defense, which was the counter to Anakin's aggressive offense and him losing himself in the dark side. Anakin was much stronger, but the thing that Obi-Wan had was he knew Anakin. He had trained him from when he was a boy. He had the patience to not lose his cool and just continue on until Anakin made a mistake. But no matter what combination of factors, Obi-Wan could never be as strong as the Emperor or Yoda. Or I would say even Mace Windu. The point is that hard work does account for something, but you can't build on something that isn't there. Obi-Wan was Force sensitive. He trained, he became stronger. He had the Force. He could use the Force. Do you understand? This is a very simple and rudimentary concept. Everyone having the spark of life, everyone having the spark of the Force, is a very common philosophical. It's a very common philosophical belief. There are a lot of creators and writers that have applied this in their work. It does not mean that they can all become wizards. It doesn't mean that they can all become Jedi or Sith. You are born with that. You are born with that. That is the way that it's always been. It's why they find Jedi when they're young rather than just train. Or if you could find random people, anyone, and just train them to use the Force, why would the Jedi not do that? Why wouldn't they go out of their way to find anyone? Just anyone. Hey, you look like you're physically strong. No, the whole point of not being force sensitive, it's a big deal. You're not force sensitive. You don't have that ability. In Star Wars The Old Republic, Satil Shan's son doesn't have the force. Meaning that he doesn't have the ability to sense the force. He doesn't have the ability to use the force. He is not force sensitive. He is not able to train to become a Jedi. Now, he trains to become a spy, and he's very competent in that regard. But he's not a Jedi. Not by any means. In fact, he actually trains with Jedi, but he never really uses a lightsaber. He can't. He's not a Jedi. And to put him up against somebody with the Force, like we see in the scene with, like the scene we see with, the Dark Jedi, or the quote-unquote Dark Jedi and Sabine Wren, all of that is just complete bullshit because they wanted Sabine Wren to fight against somebody else. They wanted 2 women Force users to fight, and they said, well, we don't have any. So let's take this character and let's just put them together. See, this is almost like a fan fiction. What if Sabine Wren were force sensitive and trained by Ahsoka? It's garbage. It's like the fast food of content. But here, what I want to do is I want to, in closing, reiterate a point that I've been hearing from other people about what would happen if a lightsaber impaled you. Because this is one of Star Wars Theory's biggest whoppers. And yes, I am critical of Star Wars Theory because he's saying stupid things. I understand why he's saying them. He wants to like the show. He wants the show to do well because he's a fan of Dave Filoni, and this is more George's work, and so he's hyper defensive of it, but it's not George's work. It is Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, wearing a skin suit of the prequels, of Rebels, of that era. It is not George's work. This is Dave Filoni placating and pleasing the higher-ups, the powers that be at Disney and Kathleen Kennedy. That's what this is. And there's no defense for it. This show is terrible. It's a 3 out of 10 at best. So let's take a look at this from Critical Drinker, which, by the way, he's a much bigger channel than me by leaps and bounds. And I'll bet you he doesn't get some of the most brain-rotted takes about, this sort of stuff. What I'm saying is widely accepted amongst people that have come to understand that the Ahsoka series is not going to save Star Wars and it's not very good. The people still clinging on, desperately fighting, it's just cringe. And you're doing it because you want it to be good, but it's not. And I didn't make it bad. It wasn't my choice.
One of the many criticisms of current-day Star Wars is the way that it handles lightsaber injuries. See, in the past, lightsabers were depicted as pretty terrifying instruments of death that could slice through limbs, droids, steel beams, and blast doors like butter. And if you happened to get run through with one, well, it was pretty much curtains for you. Nowadays, though, major injuries like this are treated more like minor inconveniences that characters can just walk off. Like Reva, who got impaled not once but twice by a lightsaber and survived with no long-term repercussions. Or Sabine from the recent episode of Ahsoka, who had a blade stuck in her for a good 5 or 6 seconds and turned out to be just fine afterwards. Now, there's been a lot of debate back and forth about how believable this all is, but nobody seems to have a definitive answer about what a lightsaber would actually do to you. Until now. Lucky for you, dear viewer, the drinker is here, and I'm about to science the shit out of this one.
Yeah,
now, in order to understand the effects of a lightsaber on a living body, we first need to understand what a lightsaber is and how it works. Well, basically a lightsaber is a blade of highly energized plasma energy that burns between 15,000 and 23,000 degrees Celsius, which makes it extremely effective at cutting through virtually any material in the Star Wars universe. It basically melts and vaporizes whatever it comes into contact with, which makes it ideal for slicing off limbs to disarm opponents with quick, efficient strokes. But what would it do to Sabine here, who gets one shoved right into her torso and held there for a protracted length of time? Well, let's consider it from a biological view first of all. We know that Sabine is a Mandalorian, which in Star Wars terms makes her human, with roughly the same physiology as us. This is very useful because we know what humans look like on the inside. We also know that she was impaled in the lower right side of the abdomen at an upward angle, which means the blade would likely have penetrated her upper intestines, kidney, and possibly her liver too. If this was just a regular old steel-bladed sword, then such an injury would cause catastrophic damage to her internal organs and almost certainly be fatal without immediate medical intervention. But this isn't a sword, it's a lightsaber, which means that Sabine has got much bigger things to worry about now. See, as I mentioned earlier, lightsabers burn at temperatures of up to 23,000 degrees, which is about 3 times as hot as the surface of the sun, in case you were wondering. Now, water, on the other hand, boils and turns into steam at just 100 degrees, and the plasma that makes up our blood is composed of about 90% water. So what would this mean for Sabine? Well, in less than a second, the blood plasma in the vicinity of the lightsaber blade would immediately heat up and flash into steam, expanding rapidly as its density decreases. The convection effects of heat travelling through surrounding tissue would cause the effect to accelerate until it ruptured the containment vessel, in this case, her body. Now, in the worst case, this would mean a highly energized steam explosion similar to the one that destroyed the reactor core at Chernobyl. The best case scenario is that her body would expand like a balloon, with steam rushing out of every available orifice until eventually it lost all structural integrity and blew apart. Either way, I think it's safe to conclude that such an injury would be fatal. But wait, there's an even bigger problem to deal with. See, water is made up of 2 chemical elements, hydrogen and oxygen, and if you heat them up enough, they'll split apart. This actually happens at comparatively low temperatures of just 2,000 degrees. But we're not at 2,000 degrees, we're at 20,000 and above. And at that temperature, the hydrogen atoms won't just split away from their oxygen friends, they'll ignite explosively in the extreme heats. Not in the same way as a hydrogen bomb, but more like the Hindenburg disaster. So basically, Sabine's entire body would literally combust right in front of her eyes as the hydrogen-oxygen separation spreads as a chain reaction until it consumes all the available fuel in the vicinity. She would effectively be incinerated at the atomic level, and all that would be left would be a small pile of chemical byproducts. So no, she probably wouldn't be able to walk this one off. But anyway, just in case you ever wondered what would actually happen if you got run through by a lightsaber,
That's really funny. So I know the argument as well. I mean, yeah, it's not technically a plasma sword. It's, it's a lightsaber crystal. Kyber crystal. It's different. But yeah, basically, it's like the idea that she could survive is ridiculous. Yeah, I love the Drinker. He's such a great content creator. He's somebody that also doesn't really like the Ahsoka series. He's not singing its praises, by no means. And I think that's because Critical Drinker is a realist. He's somebody who is being honest about this. The show is terrible. Star Wars Theory gave it a 9 out of 10. So if you think it's just clout chasing, that there's really genuinely nothing here, that I'm pulling Star Wars Theory out of the ether just to make fun of him, no. It's because of the things that he said. It's because the fact is he's the largest channel and he's spreading this bullshit to a lot of people who have found my channel and better my channel than somebody else's, but the level of stupidity and low IQ takes and just tantrum throwing and classless shit, it's on a whole other level. Now, again, I don't know that these people are Star Wars Theory fans, but it would make sense because they're saying the exact same thing with no critical thinking skills, which is usually the byproduct of a large YouTuber saying something profoundly stupid and people just agreeing with it because they like the person. And I've made it perfectly clear that I have nothing against Star Wars Theory. I think he is one of the best Star Wars content creation channels. But here's the difference. While you simps sit around trying to suck farts from his asshole, I don't care if he doesn't like me. I don't care if he doesn't react to my videos or anything like that. I'm not doing this for the clout. I'm not doing this for attention. I'm doing this because he said something, I saw it, it's a topic I care about, and I'm reacting. And if you don't like it, I don't give a shit. Is that clear enough? Are we on the same level now? Do you start to understand? You're barking up the wrong tree. Okay? I'm just trying to save us both some time. Because clearly you have made some very large errors in judgment. So, if people have actual criticisms of the things that I'm saying, more power to you. Share them. I'll be happy to debunk them, or I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll make a point I agree with. But the fact is, George Lucas did not say what Star Wars Theory said he said, and you know that he didn't, or you would if you had any critical thinking skills. It has nothing to do with every person can be a Jedi, every person can be a Sith. Star Wars Theory, I bet, doesn't even believe that. The fact is that everyone has a spark of the Force within them. That's what George said. But every ounce of Star Wars lore, every ounce of Star Wars story that we've seen completely refutes the idea that's being put forward by the room temperature IQ brigade trying to defend Ahsoka. Ahsoka is a shit show. It is a shit show, and it is a shit show. It is terrible. It is embarrassing. It is bad, and it will be forgotten in T-minus 10 minutes. I mean, no one is going to sit and remember this show because there's nothing remarkable or interesting or unique about it. And this isn't just me wanting, oh, you only want Star Wars on your terms. My terms are Star Wars being good. So, yes, I will eat that. I will take that on the chin. I want Star Wars to actually be good, and I'm not willing to settle for this mediocre garbage. Anyway, that'll do it. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you next time.